Congratulations, you just wrote an offer on a home and your offer was accepted by the sellers. Now, if you're a buyer, what are the next steps in the process? Well, that's going to be the subject of today's video, and we're going to get started right now. Hi, my name is David Matney with Nebraska Realty. I'm a local realtor here in Omaha, Nebraska. Now let's jump into today's topic. After your offer is accepted, the purchase agreement becomes the roadmap of the escrow process. Now, if you have any questions, chances are the answer is already in the purchase agreement. Now, in today's video is just going to be the general overview and give you some idea of the process. One of the first steps after your contract is accepted is the earnest money deposit, or sometimes referred to as the earnest deposit. Now, the earnest money is held by the title company, and it's negotiable, but typically you'll see something somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1% of the purchase price of the property. Many times what you'll see in our marketplace is that the earnest money check will be made payable to the title company. The check is going to be cashed and it's going to be held in escrow at the title company. And then at closing, what is going to happen is it'll be credited back to the buyer and applied toward the purchase price of the property. And the other thing you want to remember about the earnest deposit is that a timeline is in place. So it's imperative that if you're a buyer and you agreed in the contract to have that money, deposited within 48 hours of the accepted contract, it's important that you adhere to that deadline. And next thing we want to talk about are inspections. Now, this is very important if you elected in the purchase contract to conduct inspections. As a buyer, you want to order those inspections immediately once your offer is accepted. In our market, the buyer has a 14-day due diligence period to conduct any and all inspections. According to our contract, the buyer has until 5 p.m. on the 14th day after acceptance to provide the seller with either an inspection notice addendum or a rejection notice addendum. If the buyer misses that window, then the buyer just bought that home as is. After the contract is accepted, your realtor will send a copy of the fully completed contract to your lender and to the title company, and they'll also provide the buyer and the seller with a fully executed contract. If you're the buyer, the lender is going to contact you and they're going to ask you for money to cover the cost of the appraisal. The lender will then order the appraisal on the property. An appraisal, what that is used for is to give the value of the home, because if the lender is going to loan you that money to purchase that home, they want to make sure that that home is worth the purchase price. So that's why an appraisal is important. Next, you're going to want to contact your insurance provider to order your homeowners insurance policy. Now, sometimes you'll be able to get a discount if you bundle your homeowners insurance with your car insurance. So you may want to reach out to your car insurance provider. Take the time to fully understand your policy coverage. Remember, when you're shopping for insurance, you're shopping for both the best policy at the best rate. Now, it's important that you order your insurance policy right away because the lender is going to need a copy of that policy in order for final underwriting of your loan. When you schedule the home inspection, typically you'll contact the inspector and you'll schedule a date and time. Now, the inspection is completed and the buyer arrives usually at the tail end, usually the last 45 minutes of the inspection. And what that is used for is it's called the walkthrough. And this walkthrough is critical. So you want to make sure you leave the kids at home and you want to really stay focused on the process at hand. But the inspector is going to go through and point out any and all deficiencies that they see within the home. And then they're also going to give you some instructions on how to shut off the water, how to turn off the power, and all that sort of thing. So it's really a valuable information that you're going to receive during the home inspection process. Now, remember, when you're doing that home inspection, you're not just limited to just a whole house inspection. You can do an HVAC inspection. You can do a roof inspection, a sewer scope inspection. But it's important that all of these inspections are done within that 14-day window. Now, in our market, the buyer and seller have until 5 p.m. on the 18th calendar day to come to some sort of an agreement on what repairs, if any, will be made by the seller before closing. Communication is really important to this process. While the home is in escrow, be sure to communicate frequently with your lender and or loan officer. And during this time, don't go out and buy a new car, don't move money around, and don't change jobs. Doing any one of these items can jeopardize your loan approval. And also, don't be surprised if the lender asks for additional documentation, which may be required for final loan approval. If you're a buyer, you want to contact the utility company and transfer all utilities into your name before closing. This is part of the contract, and you want to do so early enough because sometimes that can take a little bit of time. So don't wait to the last minute, but you want it to change over on the day of closing. Now, before closing, your agent will contact you to conduct a final walkthrough. The final walkthrough is usually 24 to 48 hours before closing. The final walkthrough is used to make sure that the seller is out of the property and that the home is broom clean and that any agreed upon repairs are completed along with paid invoices provided to the buyer. Before closing, your lender and or title company will provide you with a final closing numbers. Now, if you are wiring the funds, understand the danger of wire fraud. Never, ever accept wiring instructions via email. And here's why. Scammers, what they're doing is they're hacking agents' emails, they're hacking title company emails, and what they'll do is they'll impersonate the title company and they'll give you false wiring instructions. And the next thing you know, you just wired, $40,000 to some account in Russia. So never, ever accept wiring instructions via email and verify those instructions. Okay, it's closing day. Now, on closing day, the buyer will typically meet at the title company. The buyer will need to bring a current government-issued photo ID, and if the buyer is bringing a check to closing, the buyer will need to bring certified funds. Once the documents are signed and the check is given to the title company, the buyer receives the keys to their new home, and congratulations, they're homeowners. And if you want to learn more about the buying process, hey, be sure to check out this next video, and you make it a great day.